Do you want to understand where AI is really heading and how to stay ahead of it? Not the hype, not the headlines. I'm talking real world legal, business, and operational shifts already reshaping companies right now. This is Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council and TechVibe Radio. And in this episode of the Emerging Tech Law series, I am joined by Justine Kasznica and Chris Farmakis of Babst Calland, two experts living at the intersection of emerging technology, law, and business strategy. And let me tell you, today's conversation goes deep. AI has officially crossed the line from interesting experiment to core business infrastructure. But with that shift comes risk, regulation, workforce disruption, and major winners and losers. Justine and Chris break down what they're seeing on the front lines, from the boardrooms and C-suites to even law firms racing to reinvent themselves. So whether you're a tech founder, executive, investor, or operator trying to make sense of AI in 2026 and beyond, you have to keep on listening. Three key takeaways are AI is no longer optional, but reckless adoption is very dangerous. The real AI divide is not technology, it is execution. And entire industries, including the law, are facing structural change. We're going to explore all of that and more, so let's just jump into it right now. I'm just so happy to have both Justine Kasznica and Chris Farmakis hanging out with me here in the Huntington Bank studios for conversations all around things tech and the law as the Emerging Tech series. Guys, it's like the dynamic duo of what's happening in tech and the law here. So much fun to talk with you. I always get a charge out of this. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Jonathan. Great to be here with you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Always a pleasure.
Thank you much. I tell you what, the topic we're into today, we could probably have like volumes on this because there's so much going on. It's so much to unpack. It's crazy how we're now at the beginning of almost 2026, and we can think about what happened in 2025 with so much that has evolved in AI so quickly. I know you're so well versed in tech over the years as I am. Have you ever seen so much tech happening so quickly in such a short amount of time? For me, I feel like this has been one of the more compressed, fast-moving tech waves, for lack of a better term, ever. Is that something that you're seeing as well, too? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. The development and the growth cycle of AI has been exponential, and that's not hyperbolizing.
Yeah, I think we view 2025 as the year when AI finally crossed the line into experimental, into core business operations.
Okay.
Take this stat. In 2024, only 55% of companies had at least one AI product that they were using for their core business operations. This year, we crossed around 80%.
Really?
So it is in the mainstream and in the fabric of US businesses.
100%. I mean, there's a day that goes by where someone doesn't say A and I together.
And in our practice, so I run the emerging technology practice at Babst, and we work with a number of both AI company solutions providers and then companies that use AI. And I would say, 2024, start of 2025, a lot of what we were seeing were companies that were doing AI-enabled core business operations. So they were incorporating AI as an aspect of their core business. Now we're seeing them flip into AI driving a lot of their core business solutions, which has been a dramatic shift in the last year.
Very much so. Let's talk more about these shifts, because I feel like first off, when you talk about this like 80%, that's that you're past that number. We're like, yeah, this is definitely mainstream, and these kind of key things have happened. Can we dive a little just deeper into some of these kind of key things, especially on the terms of business? I mean, I think everyone's been entertained by AI and things that we can do, but I look at like as a core business, like how it's actually helping people make money, save money, get more done and stuff like that. Where can we jump in on that part, do you think?
So there's two things I want to sort of start with, and let's look at, when we talk about generative AI, right now we're moving into two realms. One is agentic AI, which is sort of like the start to the holy grail of developing what we call artificial general intelligence, AGI. And what we are talking about is systems that are actively autonomously planning, predicting, essentially enabling and implementing tasks, right? This is no longer just predictive analytics. This is actually decision making that's autonomous. So that's agentic AI. We're seeing a major implementation of that across business functions. The second is essentially the enterprise model of around AI. So think, when we move towards the enterprise model for software, that's happening on the AI front. And that's really important because it's unlocking business models that are going to be fruitful and productive for companies to come. And so many various sectors are really embracing and adopting these enterprise AI models. Healthcare is obviously one that I would want to lead with because there's tremendous business opportunities for AI companies and AI tools to produce life-saving solutions to support the healthcare industry. Financial sector is embracing AI very quickly. Retail, e-commerce, kind of the foundational distribution, logistics, development cycle of the commercial sector is embracing AI. Manufacturing, education, professional services, which Chris is an expert in, will tell you a lot more about. And then we're seeing the government and the public sector also start using AI, although that raises a lot of interesting questions around data governance and other issues that we're facing.
Yeah, and it's, as you mentioned this, it reminds me of, there was a study earlier this year where it mentioned that many AI projects fail to actually produce results and so forth. And I think that was mainly based upon these were things that were happening 2 years ago that were now becoming projects where they're able to calculate. I'm starting to get the feeling now as these industries really embrace and we're seeing these numbers that you're talking about, that we're going to start seeing a lot more success, that we're going to see that business case come where it's like, yes, this is where it's saving lives. This is how it's saving money and so forth. Am I correct in my thinking on that? Do you feel?
Well, you are, Jonathan. Many organizations are still struggling to deploy AI.
Oh yeah.
And get the benefits. There are CFOs across the country that are asking their business ops teams, when am I going to get a return on this investment? And there's a gap between those that are being successful and those that aren't. The ones that aren't are really suffering with poor data quality inside their organization, lack of AI talent, and just a lack of implementation. So more of an implementation and lack of data quality than it is the proficiency and the efficiency of the AI itself.
The AI itself, right? So it comes down to the human factor of us making sure that our data is actually clean and scrubbed and that we actually follow through with what we're saying we're going to do to do that. I wonder if there's some AI to do that for us.
Yeah, well, we do know that the high performing companies that are being successful on average are seeing 37% in efficiency gains in process automation and predictive maintenance. Some of these things that are just really working, and those that are implementing it well are in fact starting to see the efficiency gains, the productivity gains, the profit margins starting to inch up. But we're still in a phase where when you look at the macro overall spend in company AI, CFOs are nervous.
Makes sense.
About getting a return on that spend that they've been spending. But we're starting to see a separation from the do's and the can'ts.
Yeah. So, I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead,
the
Justine.
other sort of economic challenge here is that I would say because all the AI systems are really the best AI system is going to be as good as its data set or its LLM, which is the language model that it operates on. So this automatically gives an advantage to the large tech providers of AI solutions because they simply have access to a broader data set and better resourced LLMs. And so I think what we're going to start seeing, and we're starting to see it now, is that the AI tools that are being developed all around the country by entrepreneurs and around the world, if they're not tied to one of these bigger central players, they're going to at some point be consolidated, picked up, financed, or essentially rendered obsolete, simply because to play in this game, you really need to, as an AI tool provider, you need to be aligned with some of these larger resourced tools.
Yeah, it's so interesting as you mentioned this. I feel like it's like we're actually watching history being made. We're actually watching markets realigning, businesses realigning in order to address this, and we kind of figure out how people will actually really use this technology to its fullest extent, and the CFO won't be nervous about the expense that they're making on it. They know this is just part of business and the tools that we have to use to be a business in 2026 and beyond, I feel like, which is kind of crazy. Which leads me to think about, like, this, and you're on the front lines of all the time, and I would just love to have your insights on this. Is just looking at, like, what do organizations really need to be mindful right now, because we're still in that kind of in between phase, as Chris was talking. What should like a mid-sized business? I think about our tech council members. Our typical, tech council member is like 20 people, like maybe 10 million in sales or something like that. What should a good, like, as we call them, mid-sized business, that's probably small to some areas, what should they be thinking about when they are looking at adopting AI, and looking at what are some of the key things they should be really thinking about to follow through to make sure they can get a better chance of seeing that good return on investment?
I would say the number one issue facing my clients and tech companies and even the firm that I work at with Chris, Babst Calland, right? Number one issue in implementing AI is data privacy and security and confidentiality concerns. What you put in as an input into a model, you have to treat it, if you're using a free AI service like a Chat GPT and you're not paying for it, you're essentially putting information into the public domain.
The wild.
You got to into the wild. And so when you are at Babst Calland and you're working with sensitive client information, that's unacceptable, right? Because you don't want to risk that. So, the goal is to understand what data you're incorporating and implementing and inputting into these systems, and be darn sure that what you're not putting in is confidential, proprietary, third-party proprietary information that you're putting in, export controlled information, because suddenly you might be opening yourself up to both civil and criminal penalties if you're, putting in export controlled or sensitive classified information, God forbid. So again, understanding what your users of AI in your organization are inputting, making sure they're trained, or giving them only tools that are secure and live within a constrained domain to protect your confidential information, which many of the AI systems, the paid models do, is critical as the first order of business.
Yeah, I think that from an operational decision-making perspective, leaders need to understand that there's in my opinion, way too much AI out there right now, doing so many singular things that you can get high on the number of things that you can do to transform your entire organization onto AI. A critical eye and a management eye needs to really look at what are the problems in our organization. Where do we need to gain the efficiencies? Where do we need to make faster decisions? Where do we need to figure out why things are breaking? And really focus in on the real key AI, because there's a cost associated with each of these individualized AI products. You need to make a cost benefit analysis to say, I'm going to spend this to achieve that. And you can get way out over your skis saying, we need all of this because we want to achieve everything, which just why the CFOs are getting so nervous about the overall thing.
Yeah, I'm sure something that you probably see, and I've seen out there so much, is that, that same thing, like you're almost just being blitzed with all these opportunities. You want to do them all at once, but you really need to be able to step back and say, where am I going to see the most bang for my buck? And start there and stay focused to see that success. So that way, then you can learn from that and apply it towards then putting this technology towards other business issues that you might have. But it's so difficult. So it makes the world ripe for consultants right now to help people focus, I suppose.
Go ahead.
And Jonathan, this sounds like 2024 again, so I don't mean to be stale here, but it's still just as valid today as it was a year ago. These systems are still imperfect. They're still spitting out, biased results and times. They're still, not necessarily reliable. They're prone to hallucinations. Yes, they're getting better, but, you need to make sure there's oversight in your organization to make sure, particularly, I'm going to use the law firm example. We need to train our lawyers to make sure that they can evaluate the AI output and tailor it to be accurate for our clients and our client needs. Number one issue across the board. We also have operational challenges, right? When you're starting to implement AI in your organization, you need to be thinking about your AI policies, your training capabilities, making sure your entire team kind of plays out of the same AI playbook within your organization. And that is not a one size fits all. We work with our clients on these AI handbooks and policies and addenda all the time.
Okay.
And it has to be tailored to what their particular use case in the organization is across the board.
It's absolutely critical that the implementation of a proper implementation happens at the top level down, not the other way around. If the C-suite is saying, here's your budget, go buy the AI of what you need, it's going to fail. The C-suite needs to understand what they're buying. They need to lead the charge of the implementation. And in fact, they need to be the power users to get everybody else invested in the use of the products that they're spending all this money.
And
Set
here's
the tone
something
from
that,
the top, right? Yeah, makes sense.
you know, you can't go through a day without reading a news article about how AI is going to take your job. You know, you have an entire generation of kids coming out of college worried about their future ability to have a gainful job. We take that so seriously because there is an element of work, reskilling, training that has to be done today. You know, we're already late at the game if you're not doing it now, to make sure that your young, you know, in our firm, young associates in other organizations, the people who are most likely to be displaced by certain functions that AI can do, you need to be thinking about your workforce and finding a way. It's almost like human computer interaction. How do you build for a future of your workplace where AI is a tool and very much built into the capability of the workforce output of your organization? If you're not thinking about that now, you will create a situation where you will not be able to offer jobs in the future.
That it sounds like a whole topic unto itself that we must nerd out on in a future episode with you, because that is something where, oh my goodness, I would love to really scratch into that, because there's so much going on around that, so much fear. Some of it's founded, some of it's unfounded, but in between, like, yeah, this is one of those once in a lifetime opportunities where I feel like we need to adjust how we approach so many things in business. And it's about our people working and people having livelihoods. So that is just so important. As we talk about all this, it makes me think about how much your practice has changed in order to advise your clients around all this. Like you mentioned the fact that like you're helping people with AI handbooks. That wasn't something you were doing 2 years ago. So this is like something, honestly, you have to become this expert in this in order to get the guidance for your clients. And to me, like, that's just fascinating that like there's literally this whole new line of work for you. It's got to be so much fun. I'm saying, I look at it something like that's got to be a really cool challenge.
I would say Chris has been on the forefront of evaluating legal AI tools and implementing AI into our organizational
Yeah.
structure and making sure all of us are fluent in it. You should talk about, you know, what we're doing at Babst.
Love to know about that.
If I could,
Sure.
let me just talk a little bit about the industry.
Surely.
The legal service provider industry is ripe for big changes, existential changes in the legal industry. And we talked a little bit about this, Jonathan. The reason why is because the information that the AI is running through is very clean. There's a lot of clean data on the LLMs to run the algorithm through. So the output is generally better than in other industries. As a result, we think existential changes are on the horizon for the legal industry. We believe that over the next 10 years, 25% of the law firms will cease to exist in some fashion.
Wow. Oh my good. That back up on that one. That's a startling number. I mean, that is.
Well, if you look at some of the studies, Goldman Sachs says 44% of all legal services are susceptible to automation. We believe that every single lawyer that we have in our organization over a certain timeline, we don't know if that's 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we will have 200 hours less each to work because of the efficiencies that will be captured because of AI. And don't forget, our clients will also be implementing their own AI.
Right.
So they will, unfortunately, stop calling us for a portion of their
They'll
work.
be keeping stuff away, right?
So we've been in this game now for 5 years in terms of evaluating. There are 450 specific legal AI tools out on the marketplace.
450.
We talked about this as being way too much, and you can buy them so quick that you can get out over your skis from the financial piece. So we've implemented we've evaluated probably 75 of those 450, looking for very targeted areas where we can employ AI. What we know is right now, the legal industry has not suffered any kind of mass unemployment as a result of AI, but we predict 10 to 15 to 17% contraction of the legal industry over a period of time. So when we talk about this 40% of things that could be susceptible to automation, there's another thing happening is the demand for legal services is going up, continuing to go up. So it's going to offset it. That's where we're coming up with this 15 to 17%
that makes
contraction.
Sense. Surely.
And some of the law firms are just going to be back on their heels. Some of the law firms' cost structures are just archaic and are not going to be able to survive the loss of 200 hours per lawyer in a law firm.
That's a chunk right there. Absolutely.
And so we are working very, very hard to implement AI to capture those efficiency gains, because lawyers or clients generally never fire lawyers. They just stop calling. By the time you figure out you lost a client,
right,
it's already happened. So we are capturing those efficiency gains. We are using it. Justine and I are using it every day. Back to that top down. And we are leading the implementation and training aspects of it within our organization.
Makes sense.
My clients are using it, and I've been very transparent with my clients when I use it, how I use it, and they've been very appreciative of it. It's still, lawyers tend to be a little bit risk averse and later adopters of technology. I find that at least in the tech sector, it is absolutely expected, encouraged, and we're getting more and more AI generated contracts that our client gives us to review, thinking that it'll save them a lot of time, which is not always the case. But
interesting. Okay.
We see it all the time. So it's absolutely coming.
And what I'm really most impressed of is how, I mean, for 5 years, you've seen this and you've really positioned yourself behind it so you're not back on your heels. I feel like you guys are in this position to really kind of move that forward, which to me is exciting, because I feel like you're probably also using AI to be proactive with many of your clients as well, too. I'm sure there's many instances where, I mean, that it allows you to be in front of things before something could become a problem and everything. So yeah, it's just this crazy wild west of so much opportunity, but being able to be rational about it, get behind it, and be really methodical as you guys are doing right now, to me seems to be a secret sauce for what's going on at Babst.
Well, Jonathan, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, okay.
This is the first technological advance in our industry since we've been working, where you have to embrace it. You have to jump in with both feet. You have to provide that better service, a faster service, cost-effective service to clients, because you're losing business. So you need to recapture business from someone else just to maintain the same level of work that you're having. And really, that's the first time that that's really happened. When you look at fax machines, computers, emails, these things all helped the return on investment. We need to generate more business to just stay where we're at. Exactly. And law firms are on their back heels. They don't really understand that as well as I think we do.
Yeah, no, that's great. So with you guys being so entrenched in this, and obviously just really being prepared, like I'm thinking about 26 moving ahead, and I'm thinking about how it'll be the end of 26, and I'll be talking to you again, and we'll be looking like, what could happen, and what happened in the course of this year. We only could imagine that happened 9 months ago or something. What's maybe a couple big key areas that we should be looking at, paying attention to as we roll into this new year, and embracing AI and using it responsibly and having methodologies behind it and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, you're looking at a landscape that is starting to get regulated globally. So the EU AI Act is obviously one of the benchmark regulations that's trying to put parameters about responsible, safe use. You had the G7 Hiroshima process that was announced in this past year, also focused on, how do we deal with things like disinformation and deep fakes and some of these really challenging issues that we're facing. You're starting to get nations come together, like the OECD, to come up with AI developed principles. The US has really touted AI as the next Manhattan Project, meaning we need to stay relevant. And particularly as we look at our competition with China, we need to stay in front. And so you're seeing a lot of AI related executive orders come out to try to build sort of AI dominance here. This with this administration, this means deregulation of AI, at least at the state level. That's sort of the trend, to be able to have sort of a comprehensive national framework around AI that's been announced even yesterday. There was like a one rule and that came out and was touted by the Trump administration. We'll see what that looks like. We haven't seen what that actually means yet. But again, we're starting to see sort of a real race here with AI. Obviously, to do any kind of inference AI, you need today a lot of energy and data. And so
Glad
that
you brought that up. Yes.
a corollary to that, Jonathan, is a data center piece, which we can
Yes.
talk at a different podcast someday in the future. But what I'm most excited about is we're looking ahead is this idea of AI becoming AI agents. So AI developing agency akin to a unit of workforce, which I actually think can be embraced and turned into a positive thing as opposed to a negative if done correctly with proper safeguards. The second thing I'm really excited about is there's new technologies and technology opportunities and innovation opportunities out there for really thinking about the building blocks of the core AI development that is less energy intense. So there's a lot of new technologies coming online in Pittsburgh out of Carnegie Mellon and other schools that are focused on how do we create AI systems, kind of like the DeepSeek out of China, that is much less energy consuming, which would be a complete disruptor within the AI disruptive sphere.
yeah.
And that would be fantastic, right? That's sort of where we need to go. And that's where I think the opportunity for innovation is: compression, better accuracy, better efficiency, better compression. That's going to be 2026 and beyond.
I'd also like to see some national regulation around data privacy and security, which the United States does not have.
That's a
I'd
really
like to
good
see,
point, Chris. Very good point. That is so fundamental right there for sure.
love to see some tweaks to intellectual property and copyrighted information as AI creates new things from old data.
Yeah, who owns it? We don't know.
And I'd like to see some national regulatory stuff on the ensuring that companies and people can't weaponize AI for false purposes and intentionally damaging purposes. There's a lot of areas where regulation is bad, but if we're going to really move forward in the United States in a big way and be those leaders in artificial intelligence development and implementation, we need a structure that companies can rely on nationwide and not have a patchwork of 50 state different regulations and trying to manage all of those things that are intertwined. Only then can we truly compete with China, because China has a nationalized program to dominate this space.
Yeah, right now, the only AI federal legislation we really have implemented is the revenge porn laws that came out this past year. That's not enough. I mean, there has to be a comprehensive.
That's addressing
It's a good
very
start,
problem,
right?
but not everything else
a
that's
good
kind of
start.
going on out there. Which as you bring all this up, I almost feel overwhelmed, but then I get really excited because I think about all the awesome content we have to move forward with talking about each of these subject areas more in depth, because you're right on top of these things all the time. You see what's happening as it happens, and we bring that right to our listeners here, which to me is just super exciting. So I think in 2026, we're going to have some amazing conversations about each of these areas that you brought up. And one thing that I'm really excited about that I've been seeing a lot at the Tech Council is, as Justine was mentioning, some companies that are ready to kind of disrupt the energy side of this. I'm seeing companies that are working on solutions that are way less energy intensive or use a lot less data storage in order to run the large language models that they do. So if you can bring that energy consumption down, all of a sudden you're changing what needs to be done in order to have the AI that we need, and then taking that AI and putting it right on the edge or into an actual device.
Taking it out of the cloud and into the edge is exactly where we're moving into.
Yes.
That's going to be the holy grail for next year.
It is so cool. And that's why I'm so excited. It's just like, it's a little overwhelming, but I'm overwhelmed in a good way. And what I love knowing is that I have both Chris and Justine here to kind of guide us on this journey, because you're like my sounding board on this stuff. And you can kind of tell us what's what and where's where. So we're going to have some awesome conversations moving forward, guys. You are the best. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. I'm looking forward to 2026. How about you?
Thanks, Jonathan. Always fun. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you and everyone at the Tech Council.
Thanks, Jonathan. It's always great to be with you.
Thank you much. Appreciate you guys. As you can see, surprise breakthroughs in AI are definitely going to come, but they're not going to be from creating new applications or large language models, rather from chasing the holy grail of achieving same or better AI processing with less energy. Innovations in this area will likely come from computing neuromimicry, specialized hardware, algorithmic optimization, edge computing, and data center infrastructure optimization. It is such fascinating stuff, and I just love having conversations like this to explore it. Hey, if you enjoy conversations like this, you got to keep tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. Catch us on the flip side. This has been Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Tech Council and, of course, TechVibe Radio.